Not that high. Let's get it down low.
Always. It's lovely to be here. My name is Martin Dyar. I'm from the west of Ireland, but I live in Dublin. I'm a member of the international writing programme here. I'm going to read from my book, Maiden Names. So this first poem is just a memory of growing up in the west of Ireland with horses. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
It's called In There. In there, the swollen mare, an animate hillside dolman, was the warmest thing in the field. In the rain, we approached her, with the vet who would insert his arm into the tight cave of her life, under her tail, in there, where I imagined tongues of braille flesh spoke things on his hand that my parents paid him to translate. And I could not imagine her insides as dark. I thought there had to be something there, clearer than daylight, the stuff and the place so profound to be said of, life comes from. She groaned but stood still, an inconvenienced yet tolerant oracle in our inquiring midst. Sunk to his shoulder in hot equine withinness, the vet fixed his eye on the distance and read. And then, the checkup complete, his sheathed arm glistening with the grease of horse health, he smoked and spoke to my parents. With the sight of the mare's soaked oak neck, big veins there like swayed worms, my 8-year-old mind pulsed. Her mane of treacle laces, her bulbous, inky eyes, maternal in ways that made me feel safe and sad. Drizzle drifted through, where steam from her body met our visible breaths. Two clouds of creaturely presence diffusing together in February light. Pleased, we descended the hill, my ankles weak upon the hoof craters, the Lilliputian castles of manure unmade by County Mayo weather, the rain falling steadily upon the ocean of sympathy that was that sacred word, foal.
Whoa.
Oh, holy shit.
Wow. Wow.
I'll stay with the horses. Stay with the horses. This poem is called Equine Therapy. For those of you who don't know what that is, or maybe you can imagine what it is, it's a newish hybrid discipline that was founded here in the States. I'm not saying it's a very American thing, but it did begin here, and the idea of horses having the capacity, the personality to engage with vulnerable people, I suppose all the spectrums, psychological difficulties, psychiatric difficulties, social difficulties, learning disabilities. So it's called Equine Therapy, and I'm just about to retrieve it. Equine Therapy. Sam's father keeps gin in his car. He has an eye on the riding lesson, but mostly he reads his paper and drinks. His daughter is struggling. She doesn't absorb what we pretend we're offering. A second mind, a supplementary life force. The illness perched in Sam's personality outmaneuvers the games we play in the saddle. It blanks the vast neutrality gathered in the being of the horse. After the class tonight, I told her dad that my mares, my ladies, are focused, that they're mute professionals of the highest order. His face showed calm inconsolability, and he spoke from his place in life, ward of this mordantly promiscuous girl, unreachable in the back seat of his car, compliant this time, but not content, plainly immune to novel interventions. I wanted to say the horses will nail it in time, that this is only the second week. We should trust the grey. She's begun to intuit the hampered light in the core of the cowed young rider. I know by her. Tonight, as she feeds, she'll be hoping her new client's brain will decelerate, lulled by a presence unrousable without trotting. I could have said, the burdens that burn us are contrived by the cosmos to draw us here, into the clinic of the wild. But lately, I don't believe it. Although I'm fond of saying it, and though a jargony, more detached version of that credo is what seals my trickle of state funding, how could I say that I've seen too many like him? That my expert work is improvised, subtle, impacting and heartening as it is, that there are days I seek to cut with my love alone the unkind roots that live in these children. Or that there are nights I go to the stables, view my glowing team where they rest, and deem them cruel for wasting their boundless hearts.
Wow.
Thanks very much. There's a wonderful poem in Seamus Heaney's first collection. It's the title poem, actually, called Death of a Naturalist. I don't know if many of you know it, but it seems to be an extraordinary moment in Irish literature where somebody so extraordinarily precocious and passionate should have such mature poetry in their first collection. And the kind of central image in the book is the young boy thinking about nature in the classroom and receiving those conventional metaphors, and then experiencing an extraordinary contrast when he encounters the natural world. And that idea of the death of the naturalist is that science is completely burst open by poetry. And there's a wonderful line where he describes a legion of frogs on a bank and talks about their blunt heads farting. And I just think that's a really, really magical thing for a 26-year-old to conceive. And of course, from there, he did the complete opposite of turning his back on nature. You know, it was the birth of an extraordinary nature poet, and his death marks an enormous loss and an enormous void, but a very true immortality as well, I think. So being away from home at this time entails a certain ambivalence that he is no more. But I'm also filled with pride, and particularly the legacy, the Seamus Heaney legacy that's here in Iowa City, which is very real. I know a lot of people here took him to their hearts. He visited many times, and many awards were bestowed on him in this city. So as I say, it's with pride that I invoke his passing and that connection and his relationship with Iowa City. And I'd like to read this poem in tribute. It's called Rooster. Being part of the IWP has been a real education as well, I should say. We're such a diverse group. And I'd like to thank my compatriot who taught me a little bit about polygamy. Talked to me about polygamy, I should say. Should prepare for the chat between the poems. Rooster. Whenever I want my 6 or 7 wives to regroup, to abandon across the farm their dung accountancy, I call out. My emerald mind rattles, my claws clasp firmly at the stony yard, and soon, in twos and threes, they return to the coop. But why do they come so quickly, clucking in compliance? Do their jittery souls fill up with some proof of lordship the instant I negate the day with throaty venting? I did not choose my authority, the sternness I brandish so well each day, and there are times when I can only doubt it. Quiet mornings when the summer's laws are fractionally out, the light in the mint-anchored presence of the sycamores seeming almost ready to spill down a truer belonging. I observe them then, dozing near me, my apprehensive family. What would it be to attack the morning from this warmth? I picture my final call, the hens at peace, the trees above, the dissolving moon, each insisting, you are woken life. I'll have honed a special curse, a dance to corner the autumn. I'll be heading to my death, aping the mild earth, and then, upsetting myself, grief-winged, I'll accost the sun. I'll flare up, convinced this house of embarrassed girls was holy. Thanks very much.
Wow.